You got to have more than one lane. You can have one lane, or you can have 5 lanes. One lane can bring you $1 billion. Nigga, Apple is one lane. Apple brought in billions of dollars. They don't need 10 companies. You need five to 10 sources of income because you don't know what your one lane is. Five sources of income is for people who don't know what their one lane is. Mayweather box. Mayweather had one lane. That's all he need to do is box. He's the best at it. He got one lane. You get what I'm saying? Michael Jordan needed shoes because they were paying less back then. You know what I'm saying? Figure out your lane. Don't jump in nobody else shit. Stay in your lane. And master that motherfucker. You heard of the 18-minute rule. You do something for 18 minutes a day, goddamn, you better than 99% of people on this planet at it. Start tomorrow. So, y'all know what I be on, man. I ain't even got a cap or nothing like that, man. I be on getting this money, man. When y'all see me, y'all see what I'm talking about.
Welcome to Road to Billions Podcast, the mentality of an entrepreneur. With your host, Moise Bertrand.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It is your host, Moise Bertrand, the Road to Billions Podcast. Welcome back, Mo. I feel it. I've been away for some time, and the reason why is because I've just been working on some things. You know, obviously, I've just been trying to, stay focused on the things, and I kind of had a conversation with myself the other day, and I told myself, don't feel bad, Moise, for taking some time away for focusing on your craft. You get me? And being an entrepreneur, my hands are in so many pots, and I wear so many hats. And then I have to give myself grace because working, just on myself as a man is enough. You get me? So add 5, 7, other 8 things to that, on top of that. And I was telling myself, well, I need to drop a podcast episode because I have people reaching out to me. I have people who follow the page, and I'm doing myself a disservice and themselves as well. I'm not giving you guys a service that you guys followed up on and follow me for. You feel me? For those who have been listening, I appreciate you for listening. And for those who are first-time listeners, my name is Moise Bertrand. I am the host of Road to Business Podcast, and I appreciate you for following this journey. This podcast, I give people insight. You feel me? And then in this modern-day world, there's been a lot of things going on that I want to touch, just a surface on. And these are all my opinions. This is nothing factual. This is nothing things that, you feel me, you could put facts to it, but I do have opinions that I could relate to facts, if that makes sense. But like I said, I'm just giving my honest opinion on things, and I tell people I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just giving you my opinion. So what would I do in my personal journey? It may be wrong, it may be right, but I know if it feels right to me, I'd rather just tell you guys because I'm a very thorough person. I go through every detail to try to make sure I'm successful. You get me? And when I see things aren't as easy, I go through a lot of dissecting to really get to the answer. So real estate, you get me? I had a few conversations the other day. I was recently on a Jay Morrison investors call. And for those who haven't heard about Jay Morrison or anything like that, he was a real estate, quote unquote, investor that, accumulated a fund, created a fund that allowed others to invest in the Black community. Now, speculation says that he misused the funds, you feel me, investors' money, but that's still he say, she say. I'm not part of the fund. I'm not an investor, so I don't want to touch too much up, on that subject. But what I could say is I did have an opportunity to speak, to others about just, a solution, to figure out how this fund could turn their whatever balance they have into millions. You get me? Because when you start playing with large sums of money like 50, 100,000, 150, 200,000, you have more of a leverage than a person who only got 10,000. Although that's the name of the game, leverage. You got to accumulate as much money as possible, and that was the name of the game, and he successfully did it. But now the whole problem is how could the investors get their money back? And this is why I spoke briefly about it. I let others know you have certain parts of the United States that are cheap. We have cheap houses, and people are so focused on houses that are 150, 200, 250,000 that they forget that they are still cheap. You get me? Just like how you have cars. If you only see nice cars in your area, you're going to only think that area only sells expensive cars, right? But then you might find like a cheap used dealership somewhere that sells you cars without needing no insurance, no credit check. Yeah, you're going to be facing a lot of more cons, but look at it this way. You have something that was cheaper. You could turn that into a whole gem. You feel me? If you have the money for on cash and you didn't want to go finance a car, you could fix that car up you just bought used and save tons of money. You get me how you could do reverse things, and then you buying an expensive car, you're saving money on the things you would have had to fix if it wasn't a used car, if it was a used car. So now you have on one side of the spectrum, you pay for what you get. On the other, you're going to pay cheap, but you're going to pay more in the front, but it's going to be taken care of. And I was letting him know you have certain parts of the United States that are very cheap and affordable housing. They could buy for like 70, 60,000, even 50,000. And people was like, wow, they was baffled because we're taught that only because you invest in real estate, it has to be like $1 million flip or it has to be a 6-figure home. When in reality, these houses that are selling that were built in 1942, they're still selling for like 50,000, 60,000, right? And I tell people, come shop with me, come work with me. You want to go find houses on your own, come work with Moist, like come work with Bright Raven Group. That's what I do. I help others find their houses, invest in them, put it on Section 8, and then we flip them or we just refinance, get the cash out, and we move on to the next deal. And it's simple as that. I have mentees who do it. Like you literally have to ask me, how did I replicate myself in a short amount of time? And it's because I understand the process. I understand how to flip the money, coincidentally, even though sometimes I ask myself, am I losing money? But I'm always winning at the end. You feel me? And I was telling Jay Morrison, with all due respect, whatever is left in the balance, I could flip it. I could flip it. 5 years, it'll be in the mill. Because 3 years, I'm already doing crazy numbers. You feel me? I don't want to talk too much, but I'm doing some really great numbers. And I asked myself, what if I had a little bit more cash? You get me? What if I had a little bit more cash to do the things I wanted to do, the leverage I want to have? And I was telling Jay Morrison, listen, I have a solution, bro. A real life solution. And when I tell you guys like 15 people hit me that same day, right? They hit me offline. And then my following count went up to like 200. My following count went up to 200 in like 4 days. And I was like, damn. And people kept reaching out to me saying, hey, I heard your solution and stuff like that, and I really love it. I want to partner with you and invest with you. And I let them know, listen, bro, like I'm a very knowledgeable person. I just don't market myself. You get me? The reason I don't market myself is because I honestly feel like it's not the time sometimes. And when it is the time, I am going to pop out. You get what I'm saying? Like there's a time and place for certain things. It's like I have to go ahead and learn real estate on a more deeper and more critical thinking level because I have to put my experience really on the field. I have to be in the field. I feel like I can't really be on social media and doing real estate at the same time because I'm taking away from one or the other. You get me? So like Money Man said, you got to do one thing really good and you got to focus on it. You got to do one thing really good and you just got to dive into different sectors of it. So for me, real estate was my thing. Now I could hire someone, which I already have, to do real estate for me. And they do a really good job. I mean, marketing for me, and they do a really good job. And I just told them, hold off a little bit right now because I want to take some more information that I'm learning from the field and bring it back on in social media and my podcast. And this is what I have. I know sometimes it could cause people to be like, hey, where is he? Like, did he fall off? And that would never be the case because I'm always working behind closed doors. And I'm always trying to put my energy into the things I'm passionate about. So I was letting Jay Morrison know, listen, brother, it's okay if you messed up. We all make mistakes. But don't sit here and continue to drag the mistake, right? Because when you drag it, that's when it gets kind of crazy. And, when people reached out to me, I felt like they were bamboozled of information that was supposed to be taught to the Black community and others. I'm not the person who is specific about who I teach to. I've never been that type of person. I always want to push for the Black community to have the information. But if people don't want to learn, in my circle, I can't force them to digest the information I'm giving them. And I tell people all the time, I teach people all the time. I give you guys the information on here. Some people reach out to me, DM me, email me, like, hey, listen, the information you taught me, bro, like with the refinance and shit, I wrote it down, I replayed it a few times, and I went ahead and did it. Like, this is real life testimony. You get me? And people understand that the information I give them is not bullshit because I'm doing it myself. I speak about it. I'm not walking around with a handbook that tells me how to do real estate, but I do walk around with handbooks that are giving me in-depth info about real estate, more thorough aspects about real estate, structuring, corporate, and I take that into consideration when I talk to you guys. So when I tell you guys today's age in real estate, you can always find a deal for cheap houses anywhere you go. If you're in the north or the south of the United States or any part of the world, there's a house for cheap that grandma is selling, that neighbor who can't come outside because, they're getting very old and they know they don't have anybody to pass the house down to, or the house is going through probate. And, the family needs those certain amount of funds because the house has a too crazy balance on it. So, they could sell it for you for cheap, for crazy cheap. They just need to pay some bills and they like trying to get it off or whatever. So we have different scenarios where you could find houses for cheap. It's only depending on how fast and how hard you're working and how thorough you're looking, through everything. For example, right now, a lot of people are migrating to cities that are cheap, such as Charlotte, North Carolina. You have Macon, Georgia. You also got a little bit of Savannah in there. I heard Augusta is the new pop-in place now as well for those who don't want to be in Atlanta area but want to still get the Atlanta feel a little bit. Augusta, I heard, is a little bit like Atlanta. I haven't been up there. I can't really give it that say so to be like, yeah, Augusta's popping, but I did hear Augusta's pretty cool. And so you have Orlando. Orlando's on the uprise, and Orlando's one of those places in Florida that you're gonna find you a good spot for cheap. And when I say cheap, $130 in Orlando. If you want cheap for real, you might want to head down to Pensacola, Florida, or even Port St. Lucie sometimes got some cheap houses if you know the right realtor. Just because Port St. Lucie is underdeveloped, and it's going to give you some good comps just because they have a lot of new construction. So that could be almost like it depends on if you want to play that role, you feel me? But if you want to go with something with a straight kill and stuff like that, you want to make a straight profit, Detroit is obviously an up-and-coming place that a lot of people are slept on. Specific areas in Detroit, I will double back on the podcast and look to give you guys that information, because this is a young lady I'm following on Instagram. I can't get her name off the top of my head like that. I think it's Lady Contractor. She's giving some good information on there. So I'm definitely, tuning on her aspect and seeing what she got going on. But Detroit is definitely a place I feel real confident about. If you guys know, I believe it's Skrilla, the rapper and stuff like that. He recently bought some house in Detroit as well. And I believe there was a few other rappers. Now, the only thing wrong about Detroit that I'm real hesitant on about, buying in those places is because Detroit is it's slowly coming up, but the appreciation is horrible, right? So the houses you're going to find in these areas, you might have a hard time refinancing out of it. So you bought a house for $50,000, you put 30, 40 grand into it, it probably is only worth 110 now, honestly. And you might be like, damn, why 110? What's going on? I put all this money in. It's because the other houses in the area that are similar to it are still cheap. You give me, they're still ruined, they're still run down. That's why sometimes you'll have a developer come in and knock all the houses down, because houses do create a problem when you're building new apartments, especially if the area is very hostile. But if you got a new apartment in a nice area, it only boosts the apartment by a lot more, because people are always big on it, big on living in a great neighborhood, big on staying in a place where it's safe and it looks clean. And developers will just knock all the houses down or even offer people to move out, and then they'll create their own little subdivision right there. But my whole point to you guys is I want you guys to focus on the spots you're comfortable with spending money. Don't look on Instagram. I'm telling you guys, don't look on Instagram. It's making you guys feel like you're inadequate when there's people out there who just got into their first deal, who might look like they've been doing 10 houses. I'm already on my I don't know, man. I think I'm probably on my 20th deal right now. And the thing I say is, I like to just tell people I have experience. You get me? And then there's people who doing 100, 1,000 flips who aren't on Instagrams that you would never know because they're too busy to take care of work. So I tell people all the time, what do you really want to accomplish? What do you really want to do? Are you someone who just want to look at life like, okay, cool, even though I got enough money, I still can't invest in real estate? That's not the way to look at things. You got to be the type of person who sit back and be like, I got enough money. How could I get into real estate? What could I do to maximize my money? Even though you invest in tax, deeds and stuff like that, like I spoke about recently and stuff, look into those, look into being a lender. There's a lot of people who have the need to give out money, that they're looking for partnerships, that they're looking for businesses to invest in, that they're looking to give money away. But a lot of people are sitting on their hands because they don't believe that they're worthy of a 6-figure check. They don't believe they're worthy of a 6-figure life. They don't believe they're worthy of a 7-figure life. I believe I'm worthy of everything that this world has to offer. And that's why I bust my butt. And that's why I speak into existence, because I'm going to look back at this podcast. I'm like, you know what? I was right. The whole time I was right. Because I gave everybody the information I was doing myself. And for those who didn't listen, they didn't listen. For those who did, hey, I know they're doing well because they're listening. You get me? So I'm documenting the journey because I want you guys to also understand it's not easy being a real estate developer. You give me, for instance, I'm working on some projects right now, right? And, unfortunately, somebody vandalized the property. You get me? And I was asking myself, do I want to look at this like an L, or do I want to look at this like a learning moment, a learning lesson? And I asked myself, why would it be a learning lesson? Right? I didn't do nothing wrong. There was nothing I could do to completely stop what was going to happen eventually, right? Murphy's Law. And I had to give myself grace. But that took away a lot of energy and time because I was stuck on a situation because it cost so much money to replace certain things in the house, in particular wires, right? The wires were cut. And this was something that was stolen, like copper wires were stolen and stuff like that. Somebody crawled in the house, stole them, but they cut a lot of things to the point where I have to replace the wires. And I was sitting on this for 2 weeks, and I was like, man, this is fucked up. This is really fucked up how people come and do certain shit and they don't understand, like, I'm the one that have to deal with the bill after. But then I had to ask myself, why do I feel so bad? There's nothing I could do. This was a learning lesson. And in that time, I was sitting down thinking about what happened. Other deals came to me and I was able to evaluate the houses a lot more. I was able to create new plans and new strategies in order to pivot this house because I was only focused on the money that needed to be spent to get it back up and running, right? So I feel like in retrospect, I was sat down not only to think about a more cleaner and thorough plan about the whole project, but also about other projects that I am putting in effect now. Because I took the time to sit down and thoroughly walk myself through and write some new plays down, and I came up with some new ideas. So I was moving too fast. That's what I'm pretty much getting to, you guys. I was moving too fast, and I needed to slow down. And when I took that L, bro, it hurt me because I was understanding myself as someone who helps the community, as someone who comes in and build these houses and fix these houses up, and I'm helping people like become homeowners. That's what exactly I'm trying to do. Allow people to have a house, to finally stay in, if they have a voucher, if they're homeless, to really get into a spot for themselves and call home. Whatever they're going to do with it, rent it or eventually buy it, is a home. And it just hurt me, bro. You feel me? So I was there very deep in my feelings about it, but I had to shake it off. You get me? I was just like, man, whatever happened, it happened. I can't do nothing about it. And I moved on. And now we're moving on to the next stages of this rehab and some other rehabs I'm doing. But it's definitely certain scenarios in real estate that you just can't control. You get me? I tell people all the time, you'd rather be safe than sorry because certain people can't get into real estate. So when you have the opportunity to teach people, I don't feel like it's competition for me, bro. Like, I don't feel like no one could be in competition with me. I feel like I will never be in competition with no one because I'm moist. Like, I'm literally me. Now, I understand people may want to copy me, and I love that. I want people to be like me. I want people to be like, I listened to this guy. I seen what he was doing. I just went ahead and started doing my own thing. I love that because in my life, I look at that like I'm being a trailblazer, right? I set the standard for what success looks like to you, and you want to replicate that. So I don't feel no type of way when people want to ask me questions. I don't feel no type of way when people want to take what I do and run with it. I feel like we all are very much great in what we do, and you can't replicate success. You only could follow it. You only could create your version of it, right? You can't replicate it. You can't do the same numbers someone does. You might do better. Your version of it. My version is 1 million. Your version was 10 million. You copied it. You replicated it. You did your own way. And that's why I tell people it's okay. Don't feel offended when people are looking to partner with you. Don't feel offended when people they take your recipe because the sauce don't taste the same. We know there's different chefs in the world who make things just as perfect, and if you try to replicate it, it won't come out as good as that chef because he mastered the sauce. He mastered the elegance of it. He mastered the patience of actually understanding the sauce itself. And I tell you guys all the time, so I appreciate you guys for listening to Road to Billions podcast. For those who want to learn real estate, man, just listen to the rest of my episodes. Go take a look. Go take a listen. Do follow up on your realtor. That's the main person who's going to help you out in life, your realtor. And if you don't help her or him, you're not going to get far. I can assure you that, because you need a team. You need a team of people who's going to help you not only push your product, but that's going to be looking for other ways to maximize your product. What other areas could we go into to push to go into this market? And you want to first think about your goals. You want to first think about your team. And you want to first think about what type of funding are you going to have, credit or regular bank account. So I appreciate you guys for listening to Road to Billions podcast. It's been an amazing journey. You guys take care and have a good rest of the day.